Are you a home buyer or an investor hoping to score a deal on a foreclosure? Maybe you read the headlines and see that foreclosures are increasing. Does this mean it's your chance? We are going to run through the latest numbers in the Southern California Foreclosure Report. Things are statistically significant, not easy for me to say that, for you to be looking for a foreclosure. But as far as the wave goes, we're going to show you the number that you need to watch in order to see when that's going to hit us. Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping the smartest buyers and sellers make the best data-driven decisions in this crazy market. And here we go, Southern California Foreclosure Report, notices of default. That is the first public phase of the foreclosure process. So a payment's been missed, minimum of 120 days later, the notice of default can be filed. Then 90 days later, the notice of trustee sale. And that trustee sale, the auction, can happen 21 days after that. So that is the process. It usually takes longer, but that would be the minimum amounts of time. So looking at the notices of default for Southern California, the counties we're covering, what do we see that other than San Diego, for the most part, we see an increase in the notices of default, nowhere near going all the way back to 2015. Is this troubling? Should we be worried? Well, look at this nice lull here. We had a foreclosure moratorium. And then, like we always say, in any given market, there still were foreclosures. We even have foreclosure moratorium, and there were still properties going into foreclosure because it didn't cover every property. So point being, there's always foreclosures in any market, and we are definitely up. If you were to average out 2020 through 2024, that would be a flat line. But let's continue to look at the numbers. Should we be worried about Southern California when we see notices of default hit numbers like these? In fact, they look like they're marching up to where we were in 2011 for notices of default. Scary times, global financial crisis. I will say at this point in time, the notices of default had been dropping. It was the later phases, like the notices of trustee sale, where we were seeing big increases. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When we look at where things were for notice of trustee sale, we can see that we have increased since the foreclosure moratorium years, but we're not even at normal levels. 2018 and before for LA, those were higher levels of notices of trustee sale. And then we can go ahead and bring in 2011. Through the roof, crazy numbers of notices of trustee sale, folks who were way deep in the foreclosure process. But this is a statistically significant time, which is very hard for me to say, for foreclosures. This means you should be tracking them. If you are looking for a deal in your neighborhood, you can be tracking foreclosures through foreclosure.com. We recommend using that service. You can sign up for a free account just to monitor it and then pay for it and get the real data if you'd like. And if you are experiencing difficulty in making payments right now, make sure you reach out to your servicer. There are a lot of programs. We'll touch on that briefly in a bit. Bank-owned homes. Now we are seeing in May, when we look at this very narrow band of 2020 to 2024, it looks like the numbers are up again, other than San Diego. The numbers are up for the number of properties that are going back to the bank. Now, these are properties that have been foreclosed on. They went through the auction and they were real estate owned, which means that they're owned by the original lender. The other properties didn't make it this far. Why is that? Well, they sold because they had equity, so they didn't make it all the way to the auction steps. The properties were purchased at the auction by a third party or the tenant. And then there's a way you can purchase properties, SB 1079. We've done content on it. You can purchase a property after trustee sale in the state of California now. So those would not show up in these numbers. Look at more typical years and we can see that we are still way down when it comes to real estate owned. Now, the other cool thing about real estate owned, if you are shopping for a foreclosure, there is a first look program in the state of California, which gives the first opportunity to owner occupants who are going to move in. So these are properties that have gone back to the bank. Nobody bought them through SB 1079. They're coming to the market. And if you're going to move into the property, you are going to be able to get that property first. You have to wait 30 days or more before investors can start to make offers. And how about this for perspective? I do this all the time in my videos, and maybe you're sick of it, but I never get sick of it. Look at what was going on for bank-owned homes in 2011. In LA, in the month of May in 2011, 1,573 homes went back to the bank. That is a crazy level of inventory. And you can see why bank-owned homes were affecting the pricing in the market when you had this many coming. Now, just because we saw those crazy numbers, it didn't mean they immediately would hit that month when the properties were foreclosed on. I was working with an REO lender at the time, so what would happen is it would go back to the bank. It would be assigned to an agent. The agent have to go out and knock on the door, find out who's there. Is it vacant and falling apart? Have they just moved out? Maybe it's okay. Is it an owner occupant, the previous owner that's still in there? Is it a tenant who had no idea? Back in those days, they didn't let the tenant know that the property was in foreclosure. And those folks may have actually been paying the landlord, and the landlord was pocketing the money and not paying the loan. So I have all of those examples because that's what would happen when I'd knock on the door. From there, you'd have to get the property empty. You'd have to get it cleaned up, but trashed out if it was filled with trash. And then you were able to bring it to the market. But about the quickest it was going to happen was maybe 3 weeks, but usually much longer because you'd have to do cash for keys, get it vacant, bring it to the market. What that means is you may have 1,500 plus go back to the bank in LA in the month of May of 2011. But don't forget the months before, you still got stuff stacking up, and the months ahead, you got more stuff coming. So you can see where this put a lot of pressure on the market. The inventory on the market included all these bank-owned homes. It included homes that were purchased at auction that were being flipped and being brought back to the market. It included short sales. So anybody who was behind on payments, hadn't been foreclosed on yet, and was selling short, they were on the market as well. And then you still had regular folks trying to sell their homes as well. So you can see as this inventory started to stack up, it led to a lot of pressure on pricing. And that's what led to the vast decreases we saw in home prices during the global financial crisis. ICE, which is where we got the numbers you just ran through, used to be Black Knight, and they released their mortgage monitor report. We have a link below so you can check out this most recent one. And what it shows is that serious delinquencies, loans that are 90 days plus past due, but not in foreclosure, they sank to their lowest level since August of 2005. So pre-global financial crisis, that is where we're seeing the serious delinquencies. And what does this mean for you? We are not getting a huge wave of foreclosures. It's not coming. I hate to disappoint those looking for that. And the reason is not as many people are behind on payments. And those that are, there are options. The servicers are working with those folks. They have a forbearance program. There's still some that are in that. And then there's bankruptcy. Servicers learned from the global financial crisis, and they are attempting to help those who can't make payments in as many ways as they can to avoid the foreclosure process. So this is important to see that we are at low levels of folks who are seriously delinquent. In order to get huge levels of REO inventory, remember we need to have the delinquencies, then we need to have the notice of default, notice of trustee sale, then the sale. What this is saying is that pipeline of delinquencies, in particular serious delinquencies, is down right now. So we're not getting a bunch of that inventory into the pipeline to shoot out the other side as REO inventory. So the translation is, watch your local neighborhood. There will be opportunities in your local area, but don't expect a huge flood that's going to push down prices in the general real estate market. It's going to be a while before we see anything like that. And by a while, we're talking years at this point. If you're digging this data, you're our kind of people. Don't forget we're real estate agents based in Southern California. We have a link below so you can schedule a one-on-one call with our team. Also built into this mortgage monitor report, very important, this is going to be our leading indicator data for the foreclosure wave. You have to keep watching this. And what this is showing us is the most recent data for April. There's a several month lag, just like the Case-Shiller index. There's a several month lag on these numbers here and lots of tiny numbers. But here's what it's saying for April data. We need to look at those who are 30 days late. If we start to see an increase in that, those potentially could turn into notices of default, notices of trustee sales, and auctions. Now, don't forget, they have record levels of equity so they can sell. They don't have to go all the way to the end. But we need to see an increase in the 30-day default level first. That's the first step. That's the leading indicator like no other leading indicator. And for those waiting for the foreclosure wave, this number is nowhere near where it's been in the past. Now be sure to note on this upper chart here, this is April data at the bottom, but it's comparing it to December data years past. And you can see that the April data we have is way lower than any of the Decembers going all the way back to 2000. So again, not seeing a huge wave of foreclosures, but seeing enough that it's statistically significant for you to track in your local area. When do you think we're gonna see the beginnings of the foreclosure wave? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter so that you're not left in the dark on what's coming ahead. Oh, and the next thing you need to know is in these videos right here. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we can't wait to hear from you.